So welcome everyone to the weekly status update of the self-sustainable ecosystem, or the sustainable ecosystem scaling core unit. We're the 11th of February today, and our topic is the status update of the project X-Ray. Probably familiar to many of you who have joined these calls before. Lenka, Jordan, and Jack have been working hard on exploring the developer ecosystem within crypto and MakerDAO, and we're very excited today to present a big status update on this one. So Lenka, take it away.
Yes, hi everyone. It's really nice to give an update again. Sorry about my Zoom being all over, but hopefully we'll do better job this time presenting. We have here the third X-Ray status update. I'll be presenting together with my teammates working on this project, Jordan and Jack. So let's get to what we're going to cover this time. And we'll go over the knowns and unknowns of crypto developer growth. We'll focus on the problem or opportunity framing for MakerDAO specifically. We'll dive even deeper into the equation, how to get the right sustainable developer growth. Following me, Jack will be taking you through the key results and takeaways from the developer journey survey we have conducted. And Jordan will share how these insights and the knowledge we have gathered translates into strategic opportunities, which we further take into actionable initiatives that we take at SES or within the ecosystem. And the last part of this presentation will be to recap all the knowledge we have produced so you can engage with it on your own terms, and also open the discussion for the questions and feedback. So if you have any question, please either hold on to it or type it in the chat and we'll cover it towards the end. Now, the main question we're going to be discussing in here would be why do developers actually join crypto and Web3 space? What are their motivations and what is it that keeps them around within the space as active contributors? To recap slightly what we have done within the X-Ray research report previously, or like the previous report we have presented to you, has been posing a question whether crypto's supply side, understood here as developers, could cross the chasm. We've been looking at the deep dive into how do top experts and other developer relations professionals within ecosystems across the crypto community, how do they actually attract, onboard, and retain developers? With this report, we have managed to answer the question, how can one actually improve the developer experience and journey in the crypto and Web3, but we have not really looked into why are these participants joining the space. So this is where we are now. To frame a little bit more the opportunity or problem we're facing, we know with certainty that there are more than 18,000 developers that are contributing to this ecosystem on a consistent basis. This is thanks to Electric Capital's developer report. And it seems like the question we have posed ourselves could be answered with yes. However, we see that there is a talent and capital flowing into the ecosystem at a rapid pace, but still we see a couple of friction points that slow this growth from being exponential. And these two headwinds we have identified are primarily connected to the price cycles and the related gap between actually acting upon the interest these price cycles create. So we have the boom and bust cycles that lead to attention, but a lot of times this interest does not translate in actually people joining the space as contributor. Secondly, we are still very familiar with all the friction that is caused by skepticism, criticism, and FUD about the industry as a professional environment and the need to address these negative narratives. To give example, for the price cycle headwind, on the left, you can see A16Z's a great research looking into how do actually price cycles relate to the innovation within the space. So we know that with the increase of price, the increase of interest into this topic and technology grows almost right away, but following some delay, we suddenly start seeing builders joining the space. And with another delay, we see more startups and projects being built. So this is the price innovation cycle. Secondly, thanks to Electric Capital's developer report, we see that if the ecosystem behaves in the same way as it has done for the previous price cycle, we will not see a decrease of the developers joining the space, but it will even out and grow at a slower rate, but still up to 2023. So that is a good thing, but it's definitely a friction point. And secondly, we are, maybe it goes without saying, but Web2 established and big companies are of course critical of Web3 and crypto as a professional career opportunity. And there is a lot of fat coming from that way. So it's quite interesting to think of how fintech is innovating the traditional banking space and financial space. They are not meeting with the problem of being seen as a not professional space to join to. So Web3 and crypto has still a lot of friction to address. Nevertheless, if we look more closely at MakerDAO, we believe that our project has been on the forefront of many aspects of the Ethereum ecosystem, which we build on and contribute to, the DeFi space, which we have pioneered and also became an important building blocks of, and also DAOs, because Maker is one of the oldest DAOs out there. But what we might be lacking is to actually be on the forefront of the developer, of growing our developer community. So we're not quite there yet, and the data suggests this as well. The Electric Capital's latest report from 2021 shows that we have not grown at a very, very high rate. So developer growth is basically of an importance and a challenge when it comes to Maker. Still, given that we had tremendous success as a protocol and also with DAI as our core product, being among the top positions when it comes to total value locked and also being among the top stablecoins by the market cap, we believe that we slightly lag behind in our ability to grow developer community. And whether you frame it as a problem or opportunity, we find this as an opportunity, thinking of all the initiatives and projects we have in play right now. We have the Layer 2 initiatives. We also have a lot of ambitions around real world assets. So just given that, if we had a large, steadily growing developer community, how far we could have gone and how fast we could have moved. Now, just bringing it all back into what SES stands for, our focus, our mission is to sustainably grow Maker protocols modes by removing the barriers between decentralized workforce, capital, and work. And tying X-ray research into this, we're basically zooming in on researching the decentralized workforce and aspects relating to it. Our goal is to help the MakerDAO to have the best and most successful onboarding experience for the new contributors. And also we want to retain our contributors. So we want to rank high when it comes to retention rate within the industry. Now, going back to that sustainable developer growth equation we have introduced, we have already covered how in the previous report in terms of introducing sustainable developer growth strategies. And we have framed the what by showing you the data from Electric Capital's research and framing the opportunity for MakerDAO. Now, going into the why part of the equation, Jack will take over and he will share with you our first attempt at answering the why question, why developers are onboarding into the space, and also other why questions that are related specifically to Maker. So he will cover with you the key takeaways from the survey we have conducted with focus on Maker.
Okay, thanks, Lanka. So yeah, in search of understanding why then we put out this developer survey. Next slide, which reached over 500 developers from over 140 different crypto ecosystems, as well as reaching 20 different industries represented by developers that were outside of crypto but interested. So what follows is some of the key findings from that report. Next slide, please. So this is a sample of the different projects that people contributed to that answered the survey. So they come from sectors like DeFi, NFTs, DAOs, and Layer 1. Next slide. And so, yeah, so these are the top takeaways. And the way that we're framing the takeaways within this presentation is using the funnel model that we've used in other X-ray talks, where we talk about the awareness stage of the funnel, the onboarding stage of the funnel, and then the retention stage of the funnel as developers move through the crypto journey. So the first stage is awareness. Next slide, please. And so the first question, like we wanted to know as a base, is like how these developers are finding crypto, or how did they first find crypto? So for crypto curious developers, which are developers outside but wanted to move in, the main two are Twitter and Friends. And then similarly for current crypto developers, there's also Friends and Twitter. Both of these being like word of mouth ways of finding out, showing that the need for like a strong community and strategies such as incentivized meetups would be a good way to sort of bring these external developers into crypto. Next slide. And then we wanted to find out what they wanted to achieve most when working in crypto. So for curious developers, they wanted to be on the forefront of technology, as well as making an impact on the world with their work. And if you go to the next slide. And then that's also the same for current crypto developers. They also wanted to be on the frontier of technology and also make an impact with their work. So I think we can take these. Oh, where we go? We can. Well, can you go back, please? We can. No, back. Yeah. So we can take these forward to. We can take these messages away. So when we're trying to talk to these prospective developers, we can like sort of center our publications around working at Maker would allow you to fulfill these two goals. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to ask the developers, when did they realize that there was a real opportunity for a career change by moving into Web3? So for curious developers, it was all about vision, problems, and people. So understanding the vision and the values of Web3, that might be around open source or around decentralization. Understanding the problem that the tech solved. So similarly, how decentralization can then solve some problems that are in current day life. And then seeing people build cool stuff. So following people on Twitter and stuff, seeing people love their jobs is key to these curious developers. And then the next slide, please. And then the same question posed to current crypto developers is around problems, people, and use cases. So understanding the problem tech solved again, and seeing people building cool stuff, but then understanding how the cool stuff that's being built can translate over into real world use cases is key for developers as well. Next slide. So then we move into the onboarding part of the funnel. So once they're aware of crypto, how we can onboard them. So what is your main goal for learning crypto technologies? For curious and for current developers, the top two were around understanding what was possible to be built with the tech, and then building a DApp or a decentralized application themselves. So I think this shows that maybe doing things like hackathons or maybe get started guides where you take people from 0 to 1 very, very quick, and you get them hands-on with the tech early on is a good way to onboard these developers into the ecosystem. Next slide. But even though these had these clear goals, they still think that stuff is missing. So for crypto curious developers, over half of them feel that information or resources is missing when they were getting started. And for current crypto developers, that number is over 2/3. But we wanted to find out why and what was missing. So if you go to the next slide. So for curious developers, they said that there's specific deep dive tutorials that are missing. So when they have this sort of foundational knowledge, but they want to go full time, there's like a gap in the knowledge base of where they can go and collect those resources. And then there's also, they say there's a missing organized starting point for specific nuanced information that revolves around crypto, but might not be the technical information. So this could be stuff to do with compensation or legal risks that are involved when working in crypto. And then more clear resources that service exactly where and how to contribute. And then for current crypto developers, up-to-date documentation is one that came up a lot, as well as how-to guides, again, talking about these nuanced crypto topics for a career in Web3. Next slide, please. And then specifically for MakerDAO developers, stuff that came up to be improved was talking about making it easier for newcomers to find relevant docs. So one specific place where they could find all info. And then a more general and widespread explanation of Maker-specific concepts to help onboard new developers. And then things that should be amplified as well, that people said they were really good about the onboarding part of MakerDAO, is the great people, team, and community, which speaks for itself through the forum, events on Discord and stuff. And then the breadth of documentation, albeit disorganized and sometimes out of date. There's great documentation out there. Sometimes it's just hard to find. Next slide, please. But then we also asked the crypto curious developers, what is holding you back from going full time? And the top answers here were not sure where to contribute, which is one that came up in the last answer, and not sure how the skills would fit with a lot of new concepts to learn beyond just technical. So there's this concept that in Web2 space, they'll have this specific job title where their skills can fit straight in, whereas in Web3, it might be harder for them to find one that they sort of feel that would be an exact fit for them. If you go to the next slide. And then for current crypto developers, what was holding them back most about joining crypto is the uncertainty around the longevity of the industry. So this could be due to the fact that current crypto developers are likely to have already been working here for a year or two. So when they joined, there might have been more uncertainty. And then lack of knowledge and a lot of new concepts to learn sort of centers around this idea that there's not enough education for these onboarding developers. Next slide. And then specifically for MakerDAO developers, what held them back from contributing was the protocol seeming complex. Again, talking about education for these specific MakerDAO concepts. Prior commitments was the second one, and then feeling intimidated by the team was the third one, which could be due to the fact that a lot of the developers at MakerDAO are quite senior, so people that are junior or students may feel a bit intimidated coming in and asking questions about the protocol. We go to the next slide. And then the retention takeaway. So once we've got the developers onboarded, how we can keep them. So on average, developers in crypto seem to be like quite or very satisfied. So the average satisfaction score for all developers within crypto that ranked out of 1 to 10 was about 8.4. And then segmented specifically for devs that work within DeFi, it was about 7.9. And then for Maker specifically, it was 9.2, which we thought was very good. It shows that once developers are within Maker, they're very happy with the work they do. If you go to the next slide. But then things aren't all good, because when it comes to working in crypto, we asked what was most frustrating. And overwhelmingly, it was uncertainty from regulation, as well as hype from speculators. And this came up a lot in the written answers, where it talks about people coming in for the price cycles. When there's these cycles of boom, there's a lot more noise in the crypto industry, and then it sort of seeps out as the prices go down again, which can be quite frustrating for developers. If you go to the next slide. And then specifically ways that developer contribution at Maker could be improved was about better and more tutorials, documentation, and education, which was brought up before. And then another specific one that came up quite a lot was better coordination, collaboration, and knowledge sharing among the core units. The next slide. And then finally, we wanted to ask what were the main reasons for leaving the Maker protocol. So this comes with a note of being a very small sample size, but overwhelmingly of the people that responded to this question They left to start their own project, which sort of speaks to the level of developers that have worked at the protocol over the years. And then with a lower response rate came these sort of more negative churn reasons of stopped growing and learning, compensated more, and burnout, which is something that we'd look to track over time now to make sure that these negative reasons don't increase. Next slide. And yeah, with that, on to Jordan.
Thank you, Jack. So this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So the report that we are going to share after this status update call goes through really a plethora of insights that we've uncovered around this core question of why developers want to come into the crypto ecosystem. So if we could go to the next slide. Now, what we did specifically within this report is we spoke to a bunch of stakeholders within the Maker ecosystem. So technical core units, we spoke to some delegates, we spoke to people with, with interests and knowledge in hiring developers. And we tried to refine these sort of core questions, research questions that we identified at at the end of our previous report. And what we did is we mapped specific sections of the developer survey, or now the actual insights that came out of the developer survey, to these specific questions. So you'll see on the left-hand side here, that we mapped this into the developer journey. We mapped this to setting developers up for success, which speaks specifically to onboarding, developer positioning and communication, which speaks specifically to things like awareness and marketing, for lack of a better term, maybe. And then also something that was very interesting or very useful with this report and the results of this survey is that we map this into 3 specific segmentations. And this resulted in us creating these 3 specific profiles. So we have crypto curious, so developers outside of crypto, but interested in joining; current crypto developers, so developers within crypto across any project, any sector in crypto; and then of course maker specific developers. And we think this will be very useful because we can take these journeys and we can apply them to very specific situations that can help us make specific decisions, or can unlock or reduce specific bottlenecks across each specific journey. So we'll talk about that a little bit in the next slide. So as we mentioned in previous status updates, if you were on the call with us, or maybe you watched the recording, is that I think part and parcel to SES, but especially to X-Ray, is that we're not just doing research for research's sake. We're not just putting these things out for that they're like interesting. We want to take action on them, because we believe that it's a wasted effort doing this research if action is not being taken. And we're gonna, thank you. So, and how we think this action is taken is, again, alluding to the previous report that we did, is we identified specific strategies that can really approach or can solve for a lot of these insights that we identified in this sort of why aspect of the X-Ray project. So again, this notion of how with the strategies, and why with the insights that we've identified. Now, if we can go to the next slide. Now, again, going back to the previous report, we identified these strategic opportunities, and what these strategic opportunities are really to take a more practical approach to the strategies that we identified. So you can think of a strategic opportunity as kind of a bundle of strategies, if that makes sense, which is to say that, okay, we have all of these different strategies. How do we apply them to a bigger initiative that we can actually use to tackle some of these insights that we've identified across the different developer journeys? If we can go to the next slide. Now, again, with the not research for research's sake, and to actually take action on these insights, we believe that, we actually have to get the ball rolling as well. So to kind of bootstrap these strategies, to bootstrap these strategic opportunities, we actually need to get that momentum going, which will show on the next slide how we're going to do that. So now what we're doing here is, you'll see within SES, we have specific initiatives that we think can actually get the momentum going, get the ball rolling for these strategic opportunities. And how we're doing this is, we're taking these awareness insights, or these onboarding insights, or these retention insights from the survey that we conducted, and we're using those insights to refine all of these strategic opportunities and to inform how we can make them even more useful, how we can execute on them even better. And we're going to get into specific examples of these initiatives on the next slide. So for awareness specifically, there are specific initiatives within SES that we think can really get the momentum rolling, get the ball rolling for a lot of these insights that we've identified. So one that I actually like to really highlight here is, if you'll remember, a few slides ago, that being on the frontier of technology was a major driver for both developers outside of crypto and wanting to come in, and for developers already within the crypto ecosystem who have made their way into the ecosystem. So if we look at the first strategic opportunity, which is to sort of position Maker outside of the crypto ecosystem through content and narrative, while preserving crypto values, using these insights to say, okay, how do we articulate, how do we create that narrative and show in a factual way that that this tech really is on the frontier of technology, despite what you might hear in the media, or FUD for lack of a better phrase. And how we're going to do this specifically within SES with some of the SES initiatives is, for example, through the incubation program, and feeding these insights and feeding these strategic opportunities into specific incubation programs, like the outreach core units that might be like Marcoms or things like that. And then when we get to onboarding, which is the next slide, I think this one is particularly interesting and particularly relevant given last week's status update. So some of the strategic opportunities for onboarding that I'd like to highlight here is this notion of kind of lowering the barrier to interacting with Maker technical content and contribution, and how we can take some of these insights that we gathered from the survey is, again, if you think back to a few slides ago, more than 2/3 of developers who want to come into crypto felt like things were missing. And more than half of developers that are already in the crypto ecosystem said that things were, resources were missing when they were onboarding in. And further, I think one of the insights was that the number one barrier for developers who want to come into the crypto ecosystem is that they simply don't know where to contribute, which seems like a very low bar to tackle. And how we think some of the SES onboarding initiatives can really help with this is, again, in the incubation program, for example, incubating core units like the Maker Academy core unit, which quite literally has the sort of mission and vision of really reducing the barrier to interacting with Maker technical content and making it really easy to contribute. And if you can go to the next slide. So the last one here is the retention strategic opportunities, and pairing this with the insights that we've gathered. And one that I really like to highlight here is the second one, which is creating an innovative developer environment through facilitating ecosystem connections. So to make that a little bit more practical, we can again look at the retention insights that we gathered. And one of the things that we saw that was most important, or one of the key pieces of feedback around developers within the Maker system already was this notion of collaborating within the DAO and collaborating with other core units. And again, one of the SES initiatives that we think can really help with this is things like this, things like incubation program for the developer relations core unit, or a developer relations core unit, which could be potentially coming, perhaps, that could really help with this. And there's one other one that I'd really like to highlight that isn't really specific to this, but I think it gets to potential SES initiatives or other initiatives that can really help with this problem, frankly, which is this notion of cross-core unit collaboration. And from the sort of SES 2022 strategic initiatives presentation, it was really to do with education and onboarding. But I do think that there's likely an opportunity to have this more to do with, more production, I guess you could say, or development, for lack of a better term. And yeah, that's really it. And I think the next slide is going to be Lenka giving a brief recap.
Thanks, Jordan. Yes, so just to highlight what we have shared with you, because this was just scratching the surface, we have an entire deck describing the developer journey in more detail, and that also ties to specific profiles that we have detected. So you have the crypto careers developer profile, current crypto developer profile, and then one that zooms in on Maker past or present contributors. And we also link in the slides, which will be shared with you, to the previous report, so you can reference to that. When it comes to the next steps, as Jordan mentioned, we want to turn as many of these insights where relevant into actionable initiatives we can take within SES, so help incubate core units that address these strategic opportunities, especially in terms of talent awareness, onboarding, and retention within the ecosystem. Equally, we are working on another cross collaboration effort, and that is producing the MVP for the ecosystem performance dashboard and API. And this should, of course, include decentralized workforce data. Lastly, we have not decided on this, but we could go even further in understanding these specific profiles we identified beyond the research we have conducted. So that's just to be decided. And in terms of if there's something you could do to help us, first off, if you find the report interesting and relevant, please feel free to share it with your friends. We're always looking for more contributors, so please share the opportunities at Maker with your friends. Me and Retro are going to be in Denver, so we really hope to see and chat with you, more of you over there. And yes, we still have the list of strategic opportunities, and we're happy to, get feedback or discuss them further. With that in mind, and we're quite on time, I would like to open it for the questions.
Yes, thank you, Lenka, Jordan, Jack, for a very detailed overview. And as you said, it's just scratching the surface, so it's pretty amazing how much information was collected here. I see that we have our Maker Talent Core unit with a question.
Hello.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes, Mariana, go ahead.
Hello. First of all, congrats, Lenka and her team for this amazing presentation. It's super helpful. I've been writing a lot of ideas to collaborate together from now on, and of course, we'll discuss them in Denver. I was wondering if you guys find it interesting to also extend this, let's say, study to the decision process that developers go through during the main recruitment process and probably immediately after hiring, because all this information is super interesting, and it can be useful for everyone, every DAO, let's say. But I would like to go one step inside what's happening inside MakerDAO. And I was wondering if you think it would be a good idea to also explore the decision-making process during the recruitment process, and also this onboarding period, let's say from the hiring moment till 3 months time in Maker. So we have more insights about what's happening with developers in Maker and how the decision process differs when a developer has, let's say, 3 offers on the table.
Yeah. So I think if I can just jump in really quickly for that one, I think, yeah, for Maker specifically, I think one thing to note is with those profiles that we showed on one of the slides, and we're going to share everything, probably right now, right after. There is a section, if you go into the Maker specific section, around the trade-offs that developers make specifically when deciding between multiple different projects to join. It's literally a specific section within the report. We asked the question, how many projects do you choose between on average? And it was like, I think between 2 and 4 projects on average, and then there's specific trade-offs. And I think the number one thing was vision. Like, does the developer align with the vision? So obviously making it very important for projects to, very compellingly articulate their vision and truthfully articulate their vision, because if it's not authentic, obviously that will be found out down the road. And then the second part, so the first part, it's within the report at a pretty high level from MakerDAO developers specifically. And then the second part is that, we actually are thinking of doing more in-depth one-on-one interviews to get to this notion of why with MakerDAO developers specifically, which is likely down the road. So yeah, sorry, brief recap. It's in the report in a high level way for MakerDAO developers, but probably down the road we're going to be doing it for MakerDAO developers in a more specific way.
Yes, of course. If you'd like to work together on seeing and assessing the pipeline of developers that we currently have in the different openings, we could send them out surveys or probably interview some of them and understand better their decision-making process, because at the end of the day, what we want is, outcompete other DAOs. And this is one of the, this approach is super useful for the Web3 ecosystem. And it will be much useful to know more about what are the challenges that we have to face as MakerDAO in order to, outcompete others. So thank you for the insight. It's really helpful. Congratulations.
I'll just want to add that, the work has been very important from Jordan's insight and also from Jack's ability to crunch the data, and also like the cross collaboration and the transparency efforts. We would like to be more proactive in terms of collecting the data and tweaking our strategies in terms of onboarding talent. So definitely look forward to bringing more of this into action. But thanks for really thorough answer, Jordan. And we have a new question. Unfortunately, I cannot read the name, but there's a question that you've mentioned that many developers find the uncertainty of regulations frustrating, and that prevents them from joining crypto ecosystem. What do you think are the initiatives to take in this regard?
Sorry, my name is Sophia. It's written in Russian for some reason.
Yes, Sophia, I'm not sure I can exactly answer your question, but I know that previously when we asked crypto curious and current crypto developers what was their kind of like concern when it comes to joining the space, the uncertainty about longevity of the industry has been mentioned, but it has been mentioned by the developers who already are in the space and not as highly ranked among the answers of the developers that were interested in the space. So at least on that front, I think things are improving. But of course, there are some cognitive friction, and this one is a quite of a unknown. So I don't know if Jordan and Jack, you have any take on this, but I try to strive away from the legal.
I think, yeah. So yeah, So I think it's very difficult to say whatever specific initiatives, someone might do to solve for this problem, quote unquote. But one thing that I do think is very interesting is just the notion of being objective. So there are certainly, things that are out there and rules and regulations that might be coming or not coming and different interpretations of them. So I think that just being objective would be great, and surfacing like legalese, which literally is legalese, into a understandable way. Because you can't really expect, I don't think, developers to, or any other person to interpret these types of things like on their own accord per se. Like maybe some help in just interpreting what might or might not be coming, I think would be good. So transparency.
If I can add something to that as well, I think some of the sort of written answers that were behind the uncertainty answers were sort of revolving around like education around the matter, so that they might be uncertain around a concept, which makes them worried, but it could be solved with some education about how the contracts would work, or how you'd get paid, or how the how the work gets done within the DAO. Whereas the uncertainty of regulations might just be the counter of just not being educated on the matter of how work within a DAO actually works. So that would be one way that you could try and combat it, I think.
I agree with
thank you guys.
Agree with Jack there. So within SES, we've already tried to create a proper framework for the MakerDAO core units to make sure that all the individual contributors, they feel confident working for the DAO and understand how it is different from working for a traditional organization, and making sure that that they feel comfortable with that. And then further down the line, we're always looking to refine the framework, to create better educational materials to make sure that these aspects are better understood. And then finally, we will need to work to put more efforts into the legal front, for which we will be organizing, next to the outreach track that was already mentioned, also an incubation program track for legal core units. And the type of core units that would be formed within that are still being discussed, and we will create a thread on the Maker forum soon that will go into that topic. Any other questions or comments? There's one I had, which is when we asked about the reasons why developers are joining crypto, that might be misleading, right? If we say, for example, well, 40% of the developers join crypto because they want to be working with on the frontier of technology, as you've put it. On the one hand, that may indicate that this is the point that we need to be pushing with developers who have not been in contact with crypto yet. On the other hand, it might also show that the other reasons are maybe underutilized, right? So, and for example, another reason might just not have been communicated properly, and therefore people haven't used it as a reason in the past, but there could still be great potential there. Is there, do you see any way of distinguishing the selection bias there? So how can we distinguish from something that fundamentally works well versus something that was just present in the current population that we've asked?
I think from my perspective, that's where maybe this more nuanced more nuanced type of like why research, quote unquote. So like doing these type of interviews and types of things like that, where you can uncover, these things that might not have surfaced in a survey with the selection or with the options that were presented. And you can maybe understand at a deeper level these patterns that come up from talking to developers one-on-one, and seeing what surfaces there. That might have not been as like high or popular or high ranking within a survey.
Yeah, and I think it also probably boils down to validating the assumptions we're making, and for example, trying a few things that that weren't on the list, and then see what the reaction is on that. Okay, I see no other questions and comments in chat, so thanks again, Lenka, Jordan, and Jack for the very insightful presentation. Can you summarize again the next steps? So this will be made available, and
yes, so we will be publishing, or we have published a blog post on SES blog. We'll also be posting a forum. We have also updated our project page with the resources. So, and we'll be also sharing the recording of this call. So we'll share this with the community to dive in the format and the time frame they prefer.
so the best place is to go either to the blog or to the Maker forum, where everything will be posted and the discussion can continue.
You cannot miss it.
Thanks everyone for joining, and I hope to see you again next time. And in the meantime, enjoy your weekends.
Thank you all.